Man, you don't know how nice it was to see Majin Buu in action for like the first time since like the Buu saga. And for me, that I haven't watched the Buu saga. Well, I've watched the Buu saga recently in Kai, but I haven't watched that in a really long time, just in general. So it felt really good to see him. And now after seeing him fight, I do feel like 100% shafted. I feel like we got shafted in the Champa tournament because he's supposed to take part there, and then they came up with the BS reason to not make him fight, and it wasn't really necessary, but, it is what it is. We're at a spot where he is fighting now, so I had a lot of fun with that. So we're going to review episode 79. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Nonetheless, subscribe if you're new to the channel, as always, all that other good stuff. So basically, this episode is a Majin Buu love fest. It's Majin Buu fighting up versus Basil or Basil, whatever. Basically, he fights him, and he winds up winning. Long story short. Now, in between there was a lot of cool sequences from Buu. We got to see Buu. He was like, hey, you're really entertaining, because as the last episode ended off, it looked like he was getting beat pretty badly, but you saw the smirk at the end of the episode, so it kind of foreshadowed that Buu was enjoying himself in a way. So it is the truth. It is the case. He did wind up having a lot of fun, and he was like, hey, you're pretty entertaining, and Basil was kind of getting low-key triggered by that. He's getting offended, like, oh, I'm just entertaining. Oh, okay, let me show you something a little different. So he starts kicking his butt a little more, and Goku's like, hey, you're not doing enough. You need to really entertain Buu, unleash your full power, in which he does. And at this moment, he really kind of reminded me of Sanji from One Piece. I haven't seen One Piece. I've been up to date on One Piece for years, up until probably about October. I haven't watched it since October. I wanted to let it kind of get a little bit ahead so I can come back to it. But nonetheless, it did remind me of Sanji and his abilities there in the most recent iterations of One Piece. It was really reminiscent of that. So shout out to One Piece. Anyways, going on from there, Buu's like, oh, I can handle this. So Buu is, I kind of did a video recently where I talked about two videos in particular. I'll talk about the other one later, but this one, I talked about Majin Buu and Majin Buu's abilities and whether or not he can offer anything to the team, and I pretty much came to the conclusion that Buu and his abilities is pretty broken, and you see that on full display here because there's a sequence in there where he gets basically a hole blew in him, and he's just like, oh, I didn't even know that was there. Recovers, and it's like, yeah, that's ridiculous. Like, this guy has that level of durability to where you blow a hole straight through his chest, and we've seen this in Dragon Ball Z regular series, right? But just saying is how he's in a tournament atmosphere. You have to find a creative way to actually kill off and defeat Majin Buu. Now, they did say that they will establish rules for the tournament, but at least in the context of the Zen exhibition match, you can't even knock the guy out of the arena. So, like, in the tournament, maybe that's a thing, maybe it isn't, but if it is, you can just say, okay, find a way to get Buu out of the tournament, and then you win. But, like, all these universes are bearing witness to a guy who's basically immortal, right? You cannot kill Buu under normal circumstance. You have to literally get rid of everything that is Buu to get rid of him. And we thought, Majin Vegeta thought that he did it. It took a attack on that level to do that to Buu, and Buu came right back. So that's why I thought that Buu would be kind of broken here, and he kind of is. He has the ability to stretch off and stuff like that. It was really cool seeing, like, the sequence where, he had his legs stretch out, and then he pulled, like, it reminded me a lot of Piccolo, because Piccolo does that type of thing sometimes with his arms. And, Basil knocked the guy's head back, and he came right back at him, like a ricochet. And I was like, bro, Buu is lit, man. Like, Majin Buu has slowly been, like, especially, like, in Super, I do love Buu and Hercule's interactions. They're two of the best characters, like, one of the best combos of characters in the show. Like, I think that they're really underrated just because they don't get a lot of screen time. I think those guys and guys like 18 and Krillin, those guys have a lot of chemistry. Like, Buu and Satan have a lot of chemistry. So it was fun seeing that. And then whenever Satan, whatever, got injured there because of that backlash, Buu got pissed off, and he's like, I'm going to end this. Now, a couple things to note. You guys have been asking me recently, do I think that Buu can get angry and transform? I meant to answer back, no, I don't think he can. And this episode kind of shows that he can't, because he got pissed off because Hercule basically got injured. And that's borderline as crazy as it gets. I mean, we saw how mad he got whenever B, the dog, got injured and got shot and whatnot. And Buu got, he was pissed off. But the difference between now and then is basically there was that evil inside of him. There's no more evil Buu inside of him to break off into Super Buu and all that stuff. It's just not the way it is for him anymore. He's just pure Buu now. He's just that guy. Do I think that he could probably somehow regress to being Kid Buu? I guess it's possible. I just don't think we'll ever see it. So that's just my answer to that. And basically we got to see the dude in the cloak. Now, a lot of people did suspect it was Toppa, the really, really big guy, and not the guy that's fighting Goku in the opening sequence of the anime, you know, the intro. So that appears to be the case because he is the really strong guy. Apparently, he's the strongest guy in that group. So it's interesting to see how they're going to utilize that character. Let me know your thoughts and predictions as far as he goes in particular. I don't really report on a lot of spoilers and news and stuff like that on my channel just because it's not my niche. There are guys like Danny, aka Geekdom 101, guys that do that I let those guys handle that. And most of the time I don't report on that type of stuff. Every now and then I will. So I didn't really talk too much about the information regarding to those guys, but go over to their channels. You can find information pertaining to like the names of the gods of destructions and such and all that. And speaking of which, the Universe 9 Supreme Kai and his God of Destruction they're hilarious because they're like the reversal of most other universes that we've seen, right? Because that guy, the Supreme Kai, the Kaioshin over there, he's really, expressive. He's really out there, and he seems really sinister. Even Kibito was like, what a despicable Supreme Kai. It had me kind of rolling a little bit. It was a little funny when their God of Destruction was like, hey, I forgot his name, like Indra, whatever it is, something like that. He was like, maybe this is a bit too much. So it kind of gives off the nature that he's a little bit docile. So I was like, oh, these guys are kind of a contrast to what we're familiar with. So that's interesting too. So all in all, Buu breaks out a litany of attacks, and he pulls out a Kamehameha full power, which was really cool because you got to see the ball expand in his hand to where he couldn't even keep his hands closed anymore. That was lit. And Buu pulled it out after Basil cheated in there by taking that little, I don't want to call it a pill. It looked more like the fruit of the tree of the might thingy majigger, but I'm not going to call it a pill, but it was, either way, it was cheating because it was outside abilities, being influenced in the ring there. They let it slide because this tournament's all for Zeno's enjoyment, so that's all that really matters here. I don't think that'll be allowed in the next tournament. But that being said, maybe if he carries it on his person, that'll be a little different in the next round, in the next tournament, actually. So, I don't know. We'll see. Because the thing is that I kind of getting into predictions for the next episode because Buu wins and all that, it's over. Gohan's going to fight Lavender next. I do expect Gohan to lose. I dropped a video talking about the return of Gohan, in which Real to Real and I, in both of these videos I talked about the Majin Buu and the Real to Real one with about Gohan. I do implore you guys to check that out. They'll both be annotated at the end of this one, but we talk about the possibility of Gohan losing, and we talk about ways he can return to power, because I kind of feel like he will lose, and it'll serve as a way like, okay, I know what level I need to be at. Or another thing that could happen is he'll get beaten up, and then towards the end, he'll start to really get the hang of it, because the next episode, I believe, is titled, like, Awaken your Saiyan Spirit, or something like that, your fighting spirit. So I do think that they're going to put Gohan in a particular situation where he has to really step up to the plate. Because Buu really had it easy. I don't expect this to be a wash, and I damn sure don't expect Goku to lose. So that means that it has to be Gohan, basically taking the brunt of the beatings here to show off Universe 9, because they're not just going to shaft Universe 9. At least I don't think so. That doesn't mean that they won't win every match like Universe 7 won't, but I just don't expect them to win it easily, because Buu had a lot left in the tank. I mean, that was a full power attack, but, Buu has the durability. I feel like Buu could have knocked off a couple of those at least. And, Basil was at his limit. He reached the limit of his endurance. So I feel like Buu could have probably won the next couple rounds, to be honest. Something interesting to note is, I don't know if there's a power hierarchy here. I mean, it's totally reasonable to say and plausible to say that Gohan is stronger than Buu, because this is Fat Buu. This is Fat Buu that's broken off from the evil Buu, so he's not as strong as he once was. But it's plausible to say that because they say that the brothers, they progress. Each brother gets a little stronger, basically. So Gohan's fighting the second strongest of the three, the dangerous trio. So it does make sense, right? Because it makes sense in the sense that I've said sense so many times. It makes sense in the notion that Gohan does have, the ability to get back to where he was, because he was miles ahead of Buu last time Gohan was in his prominence. So anyways, we'll see how this works out. And of course, I expect Goku to win his match because, he's Goku. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Nonetheless, subscribe to the channel. There are the other videos. Please, please, please go check those out. And also subscribe to Mark, aka Real to Real. Awesome guy, if you guys happen to check that video out. But anyways, have an awesome day. Thank you for tuning into today's video. And I'll catch you guys next week for another review. Peace.